Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to be here this afternoon for the third of our career webinars, this one on job search over the holidays, which are coming up and we're in the middle of right now, actually. So networking and researching and taking advantage of this holiday season in your job search. I'm Ann Baker. I'm the Vice President of the National Peace Corps Association. This is the third of our set of career webinars with Ronda Ansted. The first one was finding your right fit job, and the second, writing a compelling resume. So thank you if you've joined us for those, and thank you if you're joining us today for the first time. We are very grateful to Ronda, not only for the outstanding content of these webinars, but also because she's offering these to us pro bono, which allows NPCA to make them available to everyone at no cost. So just really quickly, what is NPCA? We are a social impact organization driven by the Peace Corps community. We are founded by and for returned Peace Corps volunteers. We are your community. We encourage you, if you haven't yet done so, to sign up to stay informed, connected, and engaged on the issues that are important to all of us. Together, we are working to ensure the future of the Peace Corps, bring about social change through grassroots action of more than 100 affiliate groups, and amplify our global social impact. Please learn more about NPCA and sign up. Membership is free, so please go and sign up at rpcv.org. We heard from RPCVs that we need to do more to help in post-service transitions, and we responded by creating this transition support program that includes these career webinars. So thank you so much for joining us today. With that, let's get right to it. I'm going to turn it over to Ronda, and she can introduce herself, and let's get started.
All right, thank you so much, Ann, and thank you so much for having me back. I love doing these webinars, and as an RPCV myself and who has gone through multiple job searches since I have come back, I'm really excited to share what I've learned both as a job seeker and what I've learned as a career counselor. So so the job search during this time of year is a really interesting time. And so often, generally job postings and interviews slow down during December. And so if you are desperately looking for a job, it's really difficult to know how to navigate the season. And so that's part of what I'm going to be talking about. And, part of the reason why things slow down is that people are focused on, they'll take time off to be with their kids or focus on the festivities. And, but this is a really unique time to do stuff that is really useful to do regardless of the season. And so what we're going to be talking about are things that where I recommend you kind of take a step back, and so that you can be very intentional about your job search. And by doing that, it will make your job search much more effective. And so what we're going to be talking about today is how to identify organizations, companies, nonprofits that would be a good fit for you. How to identify people at those organizations to connect with. Get some clarity about, once you connect with them, what are you going to talk about? What is your ask? And then to take advantage of what is very common over the month of December, and that is lots of parties and get-togethers. And so, not saying that you should be, on the job prowl at every holiday gathering, but I do want you to have some ideas so that if someone asks you, so what have you been up to lately? You can have something at your fingertips, a response that could lead to some connections or some job leads, or even just kind of some moral support. And then the last thing that we'll talk about very briefly is kind of the self-care. The job search is very, very stressful. And so we do our best when we are rested, and when we feel good about ourselves. So I'm going to want us to take a little bit of time to think about how are we going to do that. And so as we're going through this, I do encourage people to ask questions. I might not see or get to them as I'm going through this, but I definitely will have a time at the end to go through things, as well as I do want this to be as interactive as possible. There's nothing worse than a webinar where someone is just talking at you for an hour. I've been guilty of doing that. And so as we go through this, I do want you to be thinking about how you can apply some of these steps. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with researching organizations. And the reason why I want to start here is because the three main criteria for, checklist for the potential of you getting hired at an organization are ones that you actually want to work at. Your enthusiasm for an organization is definitely noted during the application process and the interview. If they're currently hiring, which is actually a proxy for what is actually important, is do they have money to hire you? And so looking to see if they've got job postings, even for jobs that you don't want to apply for, but that indicates that there is a budget to bring you on board. And then organizations that currently employs or used to employ someone that you know. And by know, we're going to use that very loosely. It could be another RPCV. We are a great network, and so we're going to talk about how to leverage that. But it could also be friend, relative, past colleague, anything like that, LinkedIn connection. So why do I want to start here? And that is because doing research on organizations up front gives you a lot of information that is not only about you getting a job, but that knowing that you will be happy in that organization, in that job once you get hired. So you can learn about the work culture, you can do some research through Glassdoor on typical salaries. You can talk to people and find out, is this organization growing or are they laying people off? And also, once you've identified organizations that you want to work for, then you can also look and see, do you know people who are working there, or who might be a good person for you to reach out and make a new connection with. And then because of the information you'll learn, your application is going to be more relevant and competitive. You can put some things in there that you found out through your process in your cover letter or your resume that helps you to stand out as someone who would be a good fit. And so all of these total up to, you're more likely to get hired. So let's talk about how are we going to actually do this. And so I'm going to give you a demo on a couple of different online websites, but I want to hear what kind of jobs are you looking for? And so that when I do a demo, I'm going to actually do a search that's going to be useful for someone. So if you can just put in the chat box, what types of jobs are you looking for? And okay, and for some reason my computer's acting a little wacky. Okay, so we're talking job titles here. So we've got economic development, adult education literacy, okay, and global education, study abroad coordinator, global public health, great. Okay, so I think that what is going to help be useful in this search is health program manager. That's okay. So, Blessing, you've hit the jackpot here. But we can also, but what I'm going to show is going to be useful regardless of what kind of job you're looking for. So next, where do you want to look? Because LinkedIn and Indeed and other types of online research tools can narrow things down by location. So give me some ideas. We might search for Washington, D.C. Metro. Seattle, Washington does a lot of public health programming. Any other location that we could bring into this? So this is where you're either currently living or currently looking. So New York City, okay. Yep, they've got Dallas, Fort Worth, okay. DC metro area, okay. Milwaukee, Caribbean, all right. So I'll give, as I'm going through this, I will give some ideas on how to search for different kinds of countries and locations. So like Africa, obviously really big continent. LinkedIn does not give Africa as a choice, but looking for metro areas can be really useful. Same with Caribbean. And then I want to hear, where did you go to school, either undergrad or graduate? Again, this can be really useful in LinkedIn. So, so just give me some names of colleges or universities where you went to school. Okay, we've got Baylor, the New School, great, Virginia Tech, UW, George Washington, UNUC, okay, University of Oklahoma. All right, so I think this is enough to get us started. So we're gonna do a few demos with LinkedIn and Idealist and Indeed, and probably won't have time to do Glassdoor, but this is enough to get us started here. And all right, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and share LinkedIn. All right, so so Anne, please tell me if you're not able to see what I'm what I'm showing in my LinkedIn profile. But basically, let us search for health program manager. And so often when we go into LinkedIn, we think of that as a place to connect with people or to kind of put in our profile. But what it really is, as far as I'm concerned, the world's most powerful organization and people database. And so I'm going to show you a few tricks that some of you might know already. If you do, please, sit back and enjoy the ride. Other stuff will be coming up soon, but I want to show you kind of the streamlined way that I encourage my clients to search for organizations and people. And so instead of searching for jobs or groups, I want you to search for people, because when you're looking at people, then you're able to do some filters that LinkedIn doesn't let you do with other kinds of, if you're searching for organizations, for example. So we can search for Washington, D.C. We can search for multiple locations. So if you want to find organizations in both DC and possibly New York, then that's one way of doing that.
Wow.
And so it sounds like someone is not muted, and so I just want to take a moment to allow them to mute your call. All right. And one of the other reasons why I like to have people search, my clients search for people is at the same time that you're finding organizations, you're also identifying people that you might want to reach out for. And so, for example, we've got someone who is at USAID, we've got someone at Clear Outcomes, and neighborhood health. So these are all organizations that you might want to take a note of. And one of the things that I'm going to provide at the end of this webinar is an organization spreadsheet that will come to you in email so that you can keep track not only of the people, but the organizations that you're finding. And so, so one other thing that's really great about these filters is that if you click on all filters, you can also search for past companies such as Peace Corps. And so any RPCV that has Peace Corps on their LinkedIn, which hopefully is just about everybody, can show up in your search here. You could also, let's just say, you can add school. So we could put in George Washington. Let's see, maybe they want GW University. Oh, I'm seeing it. George Washington University at schools. Okay, so then this list gives you 215 people where you have 2 ways of connecting with them, right? You can reach out to them and say, hey, as an RPCV, I see that you're working at FHI 360. I would love to learn more about that organization. Or, you know, as a fellow alum of GW. So now, obviously, for Washington, D.C., there's a ton of people here. This is not going to be the same if you're searching for this in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, or Dallas, Fort Worth, for example. But this is a way, again, for you to see organizations that have people with your desired job title on here, where you've got a connection with them. And so again, I find it a little bit difficult to follow chat while I'm talking. So if you've got questions, please put them on here. I'm not going to necessarily get to them right away, but I will come back to them. So one other thing that I want to show on LinkedIn that I think is really, really cool, and that is if you actually go to, let's go to George Washington University. Okay, it likes the in there. All right. So another way of identifying people that might be good to talk to is go to your university homepage and then click on alumni. And so then you'll get everybody. So almost 160,000 people have George Washington on their LinkedIn profile. Now, if you go to a smaller school, obviously that's going to be a smaller number, but often the smaller schools have very, very tight connections and willingness to help each other. So alumni tend to be pretty good to their fellows. RPCVs, we tend to be pretty good to each other. And so that's why those are 2 ways of searching for people where you can talk to them, learn more about the organization, get your questions answered about jobs, and start working on building out your community, your network. And so again, if we're looking for people and for organizations, you can click on where they live. So the Washington, D.C. area are obviously going to have a lot of people. And you can also just take a look and see where they work. And see if you might want to add any of these organizations to your list. So, so maybe you haven't thought about working for Accenture, for example. Well, there's 116 alum, and if you click on that particular place of work, then you can just go through and see who actually works there. And if they're doing something interesting to you, then you can reach out to them or just add them to your list. The other thing that you can do is search for keywords, public health. And so 20 alum work at Accenture and have public health somewhere in their LinkedIn profile. So basically just wanting to show you different ways to start getting the names of organizations that you can then follow up with going to their webpage, reaching out to people and starting to build your network in that area. Just really quickly, I want to go to Idealist because Idealist is another really great way of finding organizations in the nonprofit and social service area. And so what you can do here is search for organizations in certain areas. So let's just look for organizations in and around New Orleans. And so then we've got 3,000 different organizations. So this is another great way of finding organizations that are lesser known. And again, you can search by issue area. So, so we've got health and medicine, financial literacy, human rights and civil liberties. So all these different areas, you can narrow your search by that. And also with location, you can change how broad of a search are you going to do. So you can do just 5 miles from outside New Orleans, and that'll give you all the different organizations. So this has got 71 in their database that's got health and interest in New Orleans. So again, what I recommend is that you spend a little bit of time and just without going down through all the rabbit holes, because we can take anything here, propeller force for social innovation. I've never heard of that. And then you click on that and you can keep going and going. And, but what I want you to do is first start by getting a list of names, and then you can do some additional research in order to keep you focused. And so then Indeed is a really, the reason why I like Indeed is because it aggregates pretty much all the jobs that are being listed and anywhere on the internet. And so you remember that I said before, the place you're most likely to get hired is a place that you want to work for. So that's step one, looking for organizations. If you're connected with someone, and if they're currently hiring. And so, so Indeed is a really great way to look for organizations where they are hiring. And let's put in New York City here, and and then again, here you're looking for jobs, but it also gives you a way to look for organizations. And so even though you might not want to be the HIV program senior manager, the Diaspora Community Services might be an organization that's worthwhile to put you on your list. So the steps for what I encourage you to do over the holidays is start looking for organizations that sound interesting. Keep a list of those. Keep track of people that you find or know who already work there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about where to go from here. So, so I do want to just stop my screen share. And are there any questions okay, so just very quickly, LinkedIn Premium required for these features? No. So everything that I've shown you, actually this is a really good question, in that everything that I've shown you, you can get for free. LinkedIn is weird. If you look at a certain number of profiles that they don't tell you how many you've got, but there's a monthly limit. If you look at profiles, at some point they're going to cut you off and say, we don't let you do that anymore without paying. And so that's one of the ways that they try to get you to connect and to pay for premium. However, that search box that I showed you, if you put in a name in that search box and find a profile that way, it doesn't count for some reason. So what I recommend is instead of clicking on profiles, make a note of the person's name. And then when you're ready to dig a little deeper, then you can start with that person's name, put that in the search box, and away you go. Okay, so let's go back to our slideshow. So the second thing that is really useful during this time when we take a step back is, and this is also really useful in terms of once you get to making your ask, you want to be clear about what you're asking for. And so, so I want us to take just a moment to ask yourself, and again, please share if you feel comfortable sharing, but what do you need to get a job that you love? So not just any job, but just a job that you love. And so if you just want to share, do you know what is missing? And let me just give you some ideas. And it might be, you might need some outside perspective. So maybe you don't, kind of the job search approach that you're using isn't going to be the most effective one for what you're looking for. And so if one of the things that, like Marissa has said, to agree with your practices and mission, that is really what the organization research is about. And so, so that is information, right? And so you can find that information sometimes online, but honestly, the best way to know if what they're actually doing is something that you agree with is by talking to people there, because websites are marketing tools. It's not necessarily to give you the information you need to determine if that's the right organization for you, but it gives you some. It can give you a list of programs. It can give you their mission and their aspiration, but then actually talking to people, that's where you're going to see if they are the kind of fit of what's going to work for you. And sometimes we just need advice. And so it could be advice of, here are my strengths. I don't know what to do with them. I don't know exactly what kind of job is going to be the good fit for me. Do you have some suggestions? It could be advice on updating your resume or working on your LinkedIn profile. So these are some things that you can think about. Then getting clarity about, are you competitive for the job that you want? And so that again goes back to getting some information. What would make you competitive? Are there certain skills that you need? Are there, some kind of training or experience? And so if you're needing some of these things, then this is going to be what you want to ask, right? And so it could be a question of, I need to get some more experience in program management. Do you have some ideas for me to do that? So getting clarity about what you need is really important in figuring out what you're going to ask when you're talking to people, and to kind of build your network and your community. Now, if you're perfectly qualified for the job that you want, what you're really looking for is leads. So do you know of anybody who's working at X, Y, and Z organization? Do you know anyone who's hiring? Do you know anybody who is doing that kind of work? So I just want you to take a moment. So when, as you were going through and writing down, what do you need for the job that you love? I want you to think in terms of what might be missing right now. Is it that outside perspective? Is it information? Is it skills, training, leads? And to get some clarity about what is missing so that you can ask people to help get that for you. So I want to just stop and just, is what I'm saying, is it making sense? Do I need to clarify anything more? So if you can just in the chat say yes, or what do you mean by X, Y, and Z, then that'll be helpful. So am I making sense? Okay, I've got one yes. And okay, so I'm gonna take that. Hopefully she's speaking for everybody. And if not, again, please give me a question and I'll get back to you. But then let's go to what actually are we talking about when we're talking about networking over the holidays. And so going back to why do I want to talk about this? I think most of us know that networking is really the most effective way to land a job. Research shows that, anecdotal evidence shows that. I think about the jobs that I got, and over 50% of them were because I knew someone. And so at the same time, networking brings up a ton of anxiety for a lot of people. So I want to kind of address some of the issues that people have when they think of networking. So when you think, okay, I've got to go network, what does that mean to you? What kind of activities do you think you have to do if you're going to go networking? And so just put this in the chat box. And you know, and also you can talk about, maybe give some examples or some ideas of what keeps you from being an effective networker. And okay, so one person says it's about selling yourself, right? Or begging, asking for someone for a favor, right? And so so then we've got, you know, getting coffee from someone who would get some good advice, gathering information, small talk. Yeah. And so so some of these sound a little less intimidating than others, at least to me. Like selling yourself is hard for most people. I don't know very many people who enjoy begging for a favor. It just puts us in a very unequal position, and we don't, you know, how can you be effective if you're trying to get someone to do something for you? We can't make people hire us, right? So when I say that networking is the most effective way of landing a job, I'm not saying that someone that you are asking for, you know, if you go around and ask people for a job, that's the way to do it. It's different and hopefully a lot easier than what we think. And so I want us to start, I mean, some people are already reframing this, going out for coffee, right? You know, small talk or asking for advice. Some other ways of reframing networking is think about you're building community. And this is something that we all did in Peace Corps, is that we started building a community around ourselves. I want you to think, to use that as a possible metaphor or a way to reframe networking. Developing relationships. It can be just like hanging out with friends. That is a way to network. And you know, just hanging out with like-minded people. And this is something that's really useful for those of us that are interested in kind of like the social impact do-gooder fields that a lot of RPCVs are. And that is that when you meet other people who are just as excited about public health or economic development or ESL or tutoring or monitoring evaluations, these people can be our tribe. And when we are hanging out with like-minded people, we do tend to want to help each other. And so it doesn't have to be mingling at parties, handing out business cards. It is finding ways to connect with people that you want to connect with. And so I think that all of these different ways, hanging out with people, talking with friends, I think someone mentioned, gathering information, conducting research. Another way that that it might be interesting for people is to kind of frame this as a treasure hunt. I'm looking for someone with such and such kind of experience. And so I might have to, hit all these dead ends before I get there. But the goal is to find the gold at the end of the rainbow, and so the more we can bring a sense of community or a sense of play into the act of networking. And in fact, I use the word only because people don't understand when I say go out and build community, but that's how I want you to think about this, that you are looking for your tribe, and it might take some time, but it is not selling yourself. It is not begging for favors. It is this process of meeting people who want to do the same thing in their work, and finding people who are doing that currently are also looking for that kind of thing, so that you can mutually support each other. Okay, so let's talk about how do we do this from scratch. And so I'm actually going to take one step back and to say that, one of the initial steps on building community is to start with the community that you already have. And so our friends, our family, our past colleagues, those can all be people that we can start with. So you don't have to start with approaching a total stranger. But since starting with friends and family and past colleagues is a little less intimidating, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about that. I do want to touch on that briefly, but mostly I'm going to be talking about like if you're approaching someone that you don't really know. And so what I want you to do is first start with what you want to contribute. What do you want to contribute in that particular job? And actually, no, let me take a step back. What kind of contribution do you want to make with your connection? And so let me just give you a few ideas, or what I mean by that. So you want to know what you're asking for. And so what I mean by that is going back to that slide where are you asking for information? Are you asking for leads? Are you asking for advice? And then be specific about what you're asking advice or leads about. So let's say you know what you want to do, you're fully qualified for that. So then your ask is, I am interested in being a program manager at a public health organization, or doing public health program management. Do you know anybody who's doing that kind of work? So that would be one kind of ask. And so then you want to make it very easy to perform. So that's kind of like a yes, I do know somebody. And then you can follow up with that with, would you be comfortable introducing me to that person, like just doing an email introduction. And so if you've got like your top 5 organizations that you want to work for, then your ask would be, do you know anybody who works at these kinds of organizations? If you need some more skills and experience, then you can ask, do you have some suggestions on how I can get this type of experience? Like I need to get really facile with quantitative data analysis. Do you know anyone who's doing that? Do you know any way that I can get that skill? And so if you don't know exactly what you want to do, that's a little bit beyond what we're going to be talking about here. But some of the questions you can ask are, I'm really good at and I really enjoy those those things are really important to get you a job where you don't burn out. You're good at it and you enjoy it. I'm really good at talking with people. I'm really good at, at creative thinking. I'm really good at creating programs. What kind of jobs would allow me to do that kind of work? So then your ask goes back a few steps, and asking for people's opinions or ideas about what you should do can be incredibly informative. And you want to give them some help. So when I say make your ask easy to perform, so if you ask someone that you don't know very well, or even people that you do, what kind of jobs do you think I should do? That's too broad. And you can also you'll get really interesting advice, and you'll be like, why do you think I should become a police officer? That doesn't make any sense to me. But so you want to give them some help of, here are the things that I want to be doing on a day-to-day basis. What kind of jobs would let me do that? So there still needs to be that clarity and that reflection. And so the first webinar that I did in this series was designing your right fit career. And that goes really step by step into how do you figure out what you want to do. But you don't have to be crystal clear before you start building your community. But what I want you to be clear about is, what are you missing? And if you're missing a direction, if you're missing a specific job title, if you're missing some ideas of what's going to make you happy, then get really clear about what you're really asking for, and to be intentional about the type of people that you ask as well. And that's where so that just leads into my next point. Identify the people who are most likely to help you. And so either they have what you're looking for, they have the skills and the experience, they may know someone who does. The other thing, there is the type of person, and you might be that type of person, who just loves helping people, loves connecting people, loves giving advice. Those are also people that are gonna be your superstar helpers. And so the other thing too, if you know the people, then you're going to want to either choose, do I want to find someone who's highly supportive, because what I need right now is encouragement, then ask those kinds of people. If you're thinking that your ideas might be too pie in the sky and you want some critical perspective, ask people that aren't afraid to tell you some truths. And but what I'd say is, don't mix those people up, because if what you really need is encouragement and you get someone who's just going to tell you why you can't do what you want to do, that's not going to help you move forward, and vice versa. And so basically, just get clear about what you're looking for, get clear about who and how you're going to ask. And so let's give you some examples of what that might look like. And so I've talked about that a little bit, but so again, this would be, I'm really good at A, B, C, and D. What kind of jobs can you think that could best use my strengths? If you're talking to someone who's doing the kind of job that you want to do, then obviously you want to ask them, how did you get that job? What was really, what do you think was helpful in getting you hired? What kind of experience did you have? What master's degree did you have? How did you find this organization or these people? And again, if what you're needing is skills, then you can ask what's a good way to learn about program management or, data analysis. And again, looking for a specific organization. Do you know anybody who works at Y? The other thing that I would say is the people that you talk to. Actually, the chances are pretty good that they're not going to be able to answer your question. But the chances are also really good, by really good, I mean over 50%, that they might know someone who does. So when you're talking to someone and you're making that ask, then even if they did answer your question, or if they didn't, always ask for something that can lead you to your next step. Do you know anyone else that you recommend that I talk to? Do you have any advice on what I should do next? Any books that I should read? Any, websites that I should go to? But I really especially like the first question, do you know anyone else that I should talk to? And if they say, well, yes, I do, then you want to take that extra step. And would you feel comfortable with giving us an email introduction? And so you want to make it easy for them to say yes. And that could also mean that you say, I'll email you in a couple of days as a reminder, so that you've got control and you're not just waiting for that person to follow up on it. It's really not their responsibility, even if they say yes. I mean, this is your life and your job. So you want to be the one that is taking the most action and doing the most effort. But at the same time, you want to ask for what you need. Okay. Wow, I did this backwards. My apologies. So crafting your ask. So this is, okay, where PowerPoint does not do what you want it to do. So I gave you some sample asks. Let me talk about how to actually craft that. And so, so again, by keeping it simple, you make it easy for people to say yes. So in general, rules of 3. You don't want to give people too much information. And so if you're meeting someone for the first time, your name might be one of those 3 things that you want them to remember. So if that's the case, you'd want to say, my name is Rhonda. I'm really interested in monitoring and evaluation. And I was wondering if you know of anybody who works at company Y. And so some of these things I already talked about, that your ask, you wanted to make it appropriate to the person that you're talking to. And so if this is a friend or family, obviously you do not need to introduce yourself or make it like in fact, I don't recommend that you memorize your ask, just to know in general what that is. And so if, an aunt or uncle, works at an organization or works in an industry that you're interested in, but doesn't have the same job, then you might want to approach that person and say, hey, and ask them some questions about themselves, have it be a conversation rather than just begging or selling yourself. But you can certainly say, yeah, this is what these are the kinds of jobs that I'm looking for right now. I was wondering if anyone in your organization is doing that you would be comfortable introducing me to, or, someone that who's doing that kind of stuff. And what's really interesting about building your community, starting with who's already there, is that they often know a lot more than we think they do, because we're talking to them about things that we're, common interests that we have, or, if it's family, it's going to be family stuff, but they're going to know people that you don't know they know. And it also makes it really easy to kind of start practicing this process, so that you're not, so that when you are approaching someone who you don't know, you've got some muscle memory, you've got some practice under your belt. And talking and asking for favors it's a skill. And we are better at things the more we practice them. And we're better at them when we've had a series of successes that we can build on. So I do recommend, and this is one of the reasons why holidays can be a really cool time to start crafting your ask and practicing that. Because, if you've got big family holiday get-togethers, then you can go around and start talking to people and ask these questions and get some feedback in a really low stakes way. Now, not every family is low stakes, so I don't want to, pretend that, that going into a holiday gathering and doing this is right for everybody. But I do want you to kind of be open to asking these questions even to people that you know. Okay, let's see. So we're talking about holiday events. So then how can we leverage that for building community? And so the first thing is that there's a lot of stuff going on. So if there are holiday events or gatherings that you want to go to them. And I'm not saying run yourself ragged and go to every single thing that you get invited to. But if you're thinking about, do I want to just stay home tonight, but this party sounds fun, go to the party. And set yourself some very, very doable goals. Like, okay, I'm going to a party with a bunch of friends. I'm going to ask one friend about, what do they know about Organization Y? And so have that be a part of that. Don't let it take over your experience there, because I want this to be, fun for you. We get burnt out if we do things that we hate. So set really small, easy to realize goals that keep moving you further. And so as you were doing your organizational research, if you go to a web page and you see that they're hosting a holiday event, go to it. And that might be a little bit more scary, so you might want to take a friend with you. Or you might want to, make it as doable as possible. I'm only going to go for an hour. I'm going to talk to at least 5 people, and I'm going to ask one of those 5 people something that helps me in my job search. But, as you're doing your research for organizations, that can give you some ideas of what to do next. And so when you're there, again, you're not selling yourself. You're not begging for a favor. You are building community. So talk to people. Don't just focus on what you want. And then also think about developing a relationship. What can you give them? And when I say what can you give them, that's really broad. So think about your strengths and what comes easily to you. Some things that's really, 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 really useful in building community is listening to people. People love to talk about themselves. So that could be something that you can give. You can show interest in what the person says and does. You can give them insights. If you're talking to someone like-minded, you might have an experience with something that they're struggling with. So you can help them with that. And so this is just trying to think about what can you do, not something that costs money, not something that costs time, but that you can do. And then the other thing, be prepared to give and take contact information. So that might be business cards, that might be your phone, but just make sure that you walk away with people's contact information. That's more important than you giving it out. And make sure that you've got a way to do that. So prepare a little bit. Talking briefly, I know we're almost out of time. Following up. So what I recommend is after every event, schedule about an hour, half an hour after that to follow up with emails or text. Keep it short, simple, personable. You might want to say, hey, it was really good talking to you the other day. I'm looking forward to learning more. I'll get in touch with you in January and would love to set up some time to grab coffee. And then after that, after you started developing these relationships, you want to keep it warm. You want to think about how often does it make sense for me to connect with them, evaluate your situation. Do you need more help? You might want to reach out once a month. If you need less help, once a quarter, once every 3 or 4 months. But to keep the relationship warm. And so I suggest every 2 months or so, even if you've already got a job, but you want to keep building your community, this is what's going to help you not just find a job, but your growth overall. All right, so a ton of information, I know. And a lot of this stuff is actually kind of difficult. And so, so what I want you to do, and all of this, so this recording and this information is going to go into a follow-up email. So if you haven't registered, if you just showed up for this event, please register for it so that an NPCA can contact you and give you these different resources. And so starting Monday, I'm going to be running a 7-day holiday networking challenge. This is on my Facebook group, My Career Design Studio. And what I'm going to do is break down all of these points into daily challenges that you can do in 20 minutes or less. And so if you want to get a crack on getting this work done, please join my Facebook group and set aside 20 minutes a day, Monday through next Sunday. You'll be researching organizations. You can get feedback on your ask. I will email you an organization spreadsheet so that you can keep track of everything. And then My Career Design Studio, that is an online program that I've developed. It's very useful to help you figure out what you want to do and how to get there. The 4-hour job search and the 20-minute networking meeting, those are both jobs, not jobs. Those are not jobs, those are books. Books to help you find jobs that I've based a lot of my advice on. And so I've got a little bit more time. And so if you've got any other questions for me, so I'm going to be going through what you have written so far, now that I've got a chance to ask, to take a breath. And so these books, the 4-hour job search and the 20-minute networking meeting, I did not write those. Steve Dalton wrote the 4-hour job search, and I forget the name of the person who wrote the 20-minute networking meeting. So I am currently working on a book, Career Design for Social Impact. And so hopefully that'll be coming out next year. But right now I'm relying on the kindness of other experts that have summed this up really well. Okay, how to sell the PCV experience. So Hannah, what I'm going to say about that is that you want to know what the employers are looking for. And so it's not so much that you're selling your PCV experience, you're selling your experience overall. And so if you are applying for a program manager job, you're going to want to frame part of what you've done, if not all of what you've done, as project management. If you are looking for ESL job and you are teaching English, obviously that's a really easy sell. But what if you weren't? So you want to talk about the other teaching and training that you've done. So to be able to talk about the value that you're going to bring to your jobs, you want to first be clear about what you want. And once you're clear on that, you want to be clear on what they are looking for. And that's what you want to be focusing your cover letter, your resume, your LinkedIn profile to set yourself up for the job you want, but in the perspective of what your future bosses want. And so these are some of the things that I talked about in the 2 previous webinars. And we'll give links to those as well. This is going to be recorded. You'll get a link for this recording. And also my Facebook group, My Career Design Studio. That is another way that we can continue these conversations. Do I have examples of cover letters? I do. And at the same time, the process of writing a cover letter is very similar to all these steps. You got to know what you're good at, what your value is, and what they're looking for, and frame your cover letter for that. So since that's a little bit off topic, Anne, we might want to talk about writing applications and cover letters as a possible webinar in the future, and then I can go into more details for that. And all right, I'm just scrolling up. And so, yep, as I mentioned, previous webinars the recording is available. And okay, lots.
So maybe while you're scrolling through there, maybe let's put the pictures on again so we can see our faces. And that's a great idea to think about, what some other possible topics might be. And I've also answered a couple of questions in there about, yes, all of these resources and the recordings will be shared with everybody. And as Rhonda said, if you haven't yet registered, please do register, or at least make sure that you've sent me your email address so that we can make sure that we keep you connected.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of great questions in there. And I think you've covered most of them.
Yeah, there's just one other that I want to address. Mingling is difficult. You can be a great people person, but I do it better for others and for myself. And what I want to say for that is actually, that's a really great skill to have, is to be good at helping others more so than yourself. But you just need to add a little bit to that. And what I mean by that is, again, as I mentioned, people love to talk about themselves. So you being an attentive listener can be really, really powerful way of building community. So don't take that for granted, but just know what your ask is and ask it. And that's what we often have a difficult time doing. And that's why it might be useful to start with people that you know. And so once you're meeting someone, you've established rapport, and they're really appreciative of the attention that you gave them. Often they'll ask, what are you up to, or what are you looking for? But even if they're not, you can very easily say, oh, one thing I'm really interested in, and since you've already prepared what it is, I'm really interested in learning more about A, B, C, or D. Do you have any suggestions for me? And because you were so generous in giving to them up front, then that reciprocity becomes expected. And so, people who have a hard time asking for themselves, I would say don't consider that a weakness. Consider that your strength. Just know that that's what you're going to build on. And so make sure that you plan to take things to the next level. A lot of this is just being intentional. And so we've gone over. And so if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. But otherwise, Anne, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. That was really great. Lots of great information. And thank you all for participating and for sharing some of your responses and your questions. We will be following up. And it sounds like we're open the door here for maybe some other future webinars. We've got 3 here recorded already, but stay tuned for some other webinars down the road. And good luck to all of you really in your career search. And I hope this information has been helpful, and we look forward to seeing you on a future webinar.
Absolutely.
Or at one of those events. I mean,
Yes.
we've got lots of Return Peace Corps volunteer events, no matter where you are. I'm sure there are affiliate groups in those areas and other organizations that have similar interests and similar people who are engaged in those groups, and they do events all the time. So
absolutely. And so just so you know, your follow-up email will come with an evaluation. Please fill that out. It's really useful, and that's a way for you to give us suggestions on where to go in the future. I am having conversations with MPCA to continue this webinar series and probably do something monthly. So we don't have anything planned, but please stay tuned. Please become a member of MPCA so that you can stay on top of everything that we have to offer. And I am just really thankful that you guys showed up and asked these great questions. And I am available to you. You'll get my contact information in the email. And if you want to talk more one-on-one, I'm available for that. Okay. So, and thank you, Anne, for hosting. As always, you're fabulous, and I'm really appreciated it.
No, thank you. Thank you everyone for participating today, and have a great holiday season and good luck with that networking.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.